So what are emotions? I want to stop myself from giving you an exact definition of what emotions are, because that happens all the time where this is exactly what it is, but then there's often not any proof. There's often not any way to show that. It's such a simple or a confined description or definition. So instead of a definition, I'm going to give you a description of what emotions are, okay? I'm going to start with just a real fuzzy, and then I'll get a little bit more complex as we go down the road. So emotions are vibrations that run through our bodies. They're like electrical currents that shoot through our bodies, and they light up physical parts of us, okay? Their emotions are vibrations or like electrical currents that shoot through our body and light up physical parts of us. Now, they are not electrical currents. That's a misnomer that research has showed over and over. There's no electrical current going out. There's no specific part that's lighting up anger or fear or happiness or joy or love, but they're similar to electrical currents that shoot through our bodies and light up physical parts of us. And you know what that electrical current feels like if you've ever got in a situation where you were afraid or embarrassed or weren't prepared, and your heart starts racing, you might start sweating, and you get a stomach ache. That would be that electrical current that's manifesting, that's producing something physical in your body, even though the emotion is an intangible thing. I used to have a student, not just one, but I remember a long time ago, my first year, and every time this fifth grader got in trouble, they would start like smiling. And it was so irritating to me because I thought they weren't taking it seriously. It took me quite a long time to understand that some kids, when they get nervous, they don't get compliant, they don't get sad, they don't get, down or depressed. They start smiling, they start laughing. There's something there, and super interesting to me. So that's one way to find out that, hey, something emotional is going on inside of me, is to find out the manifestation that this vibration through your body is causing. Now, emotions are universal. Everybody has emotions. Everybody has anger, fear, joy, love, stuff like that, with very few exceptions of people that are sociopaths or something's broken in them physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. They are universal, but they're not all the same. They're not found anywhere in the brain or body, all right? Emotions are not found anywhere in the brain or body. They've not been identified at all. A lot of what we have made up emotions to be in all the literature is not based on any research. So they're not found anywhere in the body. So therefore, they don't have a fingerprint. Like I have a fingerprint, I get a thumbprint, it identifies me. We don't have somewhere in our brain or somewhere in our body that says this is how love looks like. Because some people, their love is manifested in their body differently, and they express their love differently than other people. So there's no fingerprint, there's no nothing that identifies or captures that specific emotion. And we're going to call it, like, probably, again, we'll talk about it as a thing, like as an emotion, but it's not a thing. It's rather a broad category of things, which means emotions are quite complex. Now, just in the middle here, I don't even know if I'm in the middle because I'm not actually sure I'm going to close this down, but so I'm not in the middle. I'm just at the beginning, but I'm going to switch here about what emotions are and talk about two different ways of thinking about emotions. One's an older way, one's a newer way, newer being decades, 30, 40, 50 years old. It's just gaining more and more prominence over the last decade or so. But when we're talking about emotions, I want to make sure you keep thinking about you, not how someone else manifests or doesn't manifest emotions. And this is what happens. Whoever thinks I'm good with emotions because I cry easy, or because I'm sad, or because I'm happy, or things like that. They're often not any better at their emotions than the person who is closed down in their emotions. Closed down is just a different way of being unhealthy. Always all over the place in your emotions is just a different way of being unhealthy, okay? So I want to make sure that you're thinking about your emotions, the way you feel, the way you think. So when you're always thinking in this next 30 days about yourself, and you're inviting the Holy Spirit in to think with you, to clarify with you what your emotions are, why they're powerful, why they're important, how we take every thought captive. Okay, how we take every thought captive in order to navigate our emotions, in order to line our thoughts up, which will line up our emotions into the kingdom way of thinking. And so that's important, all right? So the classical way of thinking about emotions comes from Darwin, 140, 50 years ago, in that we've evolved over thousands and thousands of years, and we all know absolutely, we know well, we can show what emotions are, and when someone is experiencing emotion, we know exactly what that emotion looks like. We know exactly what they're feeling. And this is entirely false. We don't know what someone is feeling. In fact, we're really, really bad at reading emotions, okay? And most of us that assume we're good at it, we're constantly at risk of responding to others and treating them based on wrong data, okay? Because we're making an assumption that they're feeling and they're showing their emotions the same way we would show and experience our emotion, so they're responding to them and we're getting it wrong. And this probably causes a lot more conflict than we need to go through, okay? So we're horrible at reading emotions, and that's based on this idea that all of our emotions look the same way. And it causes a massive amounts of confusion because we're constantly stuck on this idea, I know what other people are feeling. And I want to convince you, you do not. We do not. I do not. In coaching or counseling or pastoral care, we always try, it's really hard not to, we always try to let them tell us how they're feeling. But what do we do when we're just talking to our spouse or a friend or just thinking about someone? We're like, oh, they feel angry. So we respond to them in a way that we think will close down or heal them or help them make sense of the anger. But they might not even be angry. They might actually be having an emotion of fear, and it's manifesting the way they manifested in their body is anger on their face, what we would consider anger, okay? So we don't know what other people are feeling at all. And when we assume we do, that becomes a problem. Now, there's a great chart of like a chart by probably 50, 60 years old of faces, and it has like sad, mad, angry, scared, all the typical, I think it's like 12 typical markers of like, this is what people are feeling, and this is how you know it because of these are their facial expressions. They're completely unreliable. They're not good identifiers of our emotions at all, okay? And bodily responses are not good for identifying how somebody's feeling. And I'm going to seek to prove some of this stuff over and over and over again during this month, because most people, again, believe that we know what someone is feeling, what emotion the other person is experiencing, and we often don't. This may be a good example or a bad example, I'm not sure, but the person that you hear, well, I don't go to the gym because everybody's judging me. What you're saying is, I know what that person is thinking and feeling, even though that person has never spoke to me. I've never got a text or an email or a Facebook message or a personal conversation with that person telling me you're too fat to come to the gym, you're an embarrassment, you shouldn't be here, or you're too weak to be lifting weights. We don't hear that, but we believe that to be true, and we think we know what they're thinking, and we don't. Which is interesting because we don't even, in that situation, we don't even know what we're thinking. We're not even aware of how we're feeling. We're making stuff up about what other people are thinking and feeling without us being aware what we're thinking and feeling. So that's super important, because one of the healthiest ways to have a good relationship is to be emotionally stable. It's to be emotionally clear. It's to be emotionally free and emotionally healthy. And it's not a screw you mentality. That's not emotionally healthy for Christians. Oh, they're toxic, I don't want to be around them. None of that. That's nonsense. We're not talking about that. We're talking about aligning our hearts and our minds and our emotions to kingdom principles, to kingdom reality, okay? And we're working towards that as being healthy, getting healthier in that direction. So what it becomes is most of us think about emotions in that classical sense. And to most of us, emotions are stereotypes of what we think emotions should be. Okay? I want to say that again. Emotions become stereotypes of what we think emotions should be. I would look that way. I mean, I would feel that way if that happened to me. Therefore, I see anger on their face, how I would be angry, so I think they're angry. We don't know. And in this view, all emotions have to align to this common known pattern that all the people all around the world, 7 billion people, express anger and pain and fear and greed and jealousy and love in the same way. That's rarely true. Now, what is true that sometimes in a household or in a family unit or in a tribe, a group of people, they've been trained to have emotions in a certain way, and then we see that. But that's a very limited population, and we will talk about that later on, about the tribal brain, or the brain that your country gives you, the brain that your religion gives you, or your familial brain, the family brain that you get. And it's all the same brain. It's not like you have like 8 different brains you choose from, but it's the manifestation, what's actually happening to that little that not little, it's a pretty big muscle called your brain. Okay, so the perspective I'm coming from, and we'll work on this in the next week or two. You'll hear this. You probably won't hear this, but instead of the classical view of emotions, it's the constructed view. It's a newer theory, again, meaning 40, 50 years old, but gaining more and more prominence the last 10, 15, 20 years. But it has a lot more data all across the board for being true, okay? Not only does it have a lot more data, but it's got much less social myths embedded in it than the classical view of emotions. And that's what we have to break against a lot, is this like social myth. These social myths, these things that we've taught to be true, that we just go, yeah, it's true, and it feels true, and it seems true, but when you start looking under the hood, it's not true, okay? And I think the clearest thing I can probably say about this, well, yeah, this is the clearest thing I can say about this, I think. In this perspective, called the constructive view of emotions, the biggest difference maybe that I can access in my brain is that emotions are not triggered, okay? It's not like I'm here, something happens over here, and it triggers me, and it just fires off like there's like a trigger in a gun. Boom, now I'm angry, okay? What it is rather is I see something happening, and I predict what's happening based on information in my brain, okay? Information I've stored in my brain. This is where all the neurobiology research over the last decade or so comes in. So I want to say that again in a maybe in a better way that would be clearer. Okay, so in this perspective, I'm going to try to get this clear. And this is something that, this is the description rather than the definition. Okay, so I want to describe, and I want you to hear that if you're fearfully and wonderfully made, you're made uniquely, you're made beautifully. And so when we're talking about some of these things and applying them to our life, we have definitions, and they crunch us down to like really small. And what I want to do when we're thinking about emotions, I want to like expand it, describe it, make it big, but make it accessible so we can work with it, so we can move into practicing healthy emotions. All right. So again, emotions are not triggered. Like I don't have something here where you made me mad. It's you did something, and my brain articulated a response. My brain constructed a response, and then that response is an emotion of I got mad. Okay? Now, if you're able to trigger me, you're powerful over me. If I'm constructing an emotion and a response, then I have self-control. I have power over myself. Okay, and that will, these are again things that we'll utilize as we start identifying emotions, because we're going to do that today, right after I get done here. I'm going to give you a sheet that starts you that. And then the next day or two, I'm going to give you another sheet that connects with that. And then after that, I'm going to give you another sheet, and it's going to like help you, give you some real practical right early on here. Okay, because we don't want to talk just theory. We want to like put it into practice, how you can capture that emotion, identify the situation that triggered that emotion. No, to identify that situation that that you chose that emotion, you construct that emotion, and then the thought that goes into that based on that situation. Okay, so we're going to do that. So we create them based on what information we have stored in our brains, and that's why going back and talking honestly about our family of origin, going back and talking about our first relationship with our parents, our siblings, our mom, our dad, things like that, with the people around us, a lot of those have been stored in our brain, and those are what we're using that information to construct our emotions. So this might help. So all right, so I hope that description of what are emotions helps. Tomorrow it's going to be why emotions are important. I'm going to share just a little brief reason why I started pursuing emotional health. And I always thought I was super emotionally healthy, and God convinced me I wasn't. It didn't take him long because he works like sometimes hard on me on some of these areas, but so I'm going to put in the comments, if I can put a PDF in the comments, I'm going to put what's called a SASHET, SASHET exercise. It is just 6 emotions: sad, angry, scared, happy, energized, tender. Sad, angry, scared, happy, energized, tender. I want you to memorize those, okay? Memorize those are your 6 core emotions that we're always going to go to those core emotions, okay? And there's an exercise that you can do with yourself. It's a lot of fun to do with others. The rules, there are rules. Nobody wins. Everybody's a winner. Nobody's a loser in this. You're a loser if you pose and you don't share honestly. I guess you would be the loser in the game. But the rules are simple, but you got to keep it to the rules. Look at the 6 core emotions. You have 1 minute. Say something like, choose 2 of them, 3 of them, 6 of them if you do it in a minute. I doubt if you can. Say, I feel sad today because my dog of 15 years died. All right? You can say, I feel energized today because I got that promotion. Energized is a great word for excited, okay? But it's energized because I got that promotion. Do not minimize the emotion. You're not a little bit sad. You're not a little bit scared. You're not sort of scared. You're not irritated. You're angry. Not a little bit angry. You're angry with your kids. Not kind of angry. Not kind of scared. Not happy-ish. You're happy. Say the word, no adjectives defining the word or the state that you feel. And you say, I'm blank because blank. It's that simple. Then you just let the other person go. You can talk more about it later on, but it's a great thing to start. We've done this at meals at my house, okay? It's me, Cretia, and Victoria. We've done it. I've had the sheet out, and it's a great way to get into connection with who you are, to stop and to hear others, to start your dinner conversation really healthy, okay? One other thing, before I want you to make sure you post your comments and your thoughts here on Facebook in this group. If you're not posting anything personal, then you may just be experiencing fear, okay? What would people think? What if I get this wrong? There's no getting anything wrong. We're all thinking together. We're all thinking, moving towards healthier emotions, okay? That's what we want. You can shoot me any questions in the group on comments, and or you can direct message me, DM message me, I think, in the group if you want to ask the question in private. I'll answer it in the group, but I will not assign your name to it, okay? All right, God bless you. Tomorrow will be why are emotions so important, with another sheet that'll help us work through some of these things and clarifying our emotions. All right, bye.